Hello, this is Dr. Shiny. I have a reading for Cancer for the month of April for this month. I am trying to decide whether or not I'm going to go to two monthly readings, so like a mid-month reading and a regular reading. So please let me know if you have a preference, if you think that two readings a month is excessive, or if you'd like that idea. Um, Give me some motivation as to whether or not I should do it. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that the reading today has a fairly sort of mystical context to it. I get the feeling that the reading is going to be most applicable to people who have like a pretty in-depth understanding of spirituality, but I want you to, if you don't feel like that describes you, I want you to think about this reading as though I'm giving it possibly to your mother or your grandmother or something like that. Put yourself in their shoes for a minute and listen to the reading, and I think you might find some important lessons or intuition ideas, even if you don't necessarily feel like it applies to you. Okay. So what I have, first of all, one of the things that, and that's just a little caveat because this is a little bit more of an interesting reading this time around, but what I've noticed, first of all, is that you have three of the aces in your reading, which is normally, it normally has a little bit of significance to it. So the aces that you have are the wands, the coins, and the swords. The one that's missing is the emotion, right? The cups. So you've figured out all of this stuff, but you've sort of put your emotions and your feelings on the back burner, and you're sort of like possibly using them fully for other people or something like that. So that may be the basis for this whole situation and what's coming to be. The current situation is the Ace of Wands, which represents sort of like a new opportunity, a new idea, or something like that. It's an opportunity to sort of pursue a new path in life. It doesn't have to be anything major. It can be a small thing. But in this situation, what's influencing you or crossing you is the Strength card. Okay, and so this is um, a lesson that you're learning about using your skill, using your understanding to create a sort of safe spot around an individual or group of people, which allows them to express themselves. And when they express themselves, then you start to understand that, you know, even though this is a lion here, the lion is scary, right? So one of the things that the lion wants most is to have somebody who trusts him, who to have somebody who is kind to him, right? So by using your experience uh, as a tool to be able to uncover people's true motives, you gain a tremendous amount of strength. And if you find out what a person wants and you help them achieve it, then they in turn want to help you achieve your goals, whatever that may be. So in the card, the woman who is you know, giving a safe spot and love and affection to this lion, in turn, the lion protects her because he values her, right? What got you here, what was in the past, was the sun, which indicates sort of completion, right? This means that you've got what you set out to do accomplished. You have knowledge now. You know how something works, and it's not a mystery as much to you anymore. So it's your job or duty, responsibility now to sort of maybe pass those things on, to pass that knowledge on, and to teach is a new challenge, right? To teach these things, to find a way to take your life experience, not just teach what somebody else says is the right thing, but to teach somebody else what you personally have learned, like ideas to live by and that kind of thing. That's a new challenge for you and a new opportunity. And it's the opportunity, I think, that's being presented to you. In the future, if you can sort of learn to utilize this strength, learn to utilize this way of living, you will have the Ace of Coins, which indicates material opportunities coming to you. But these material opportunities are not always what you imagined, not always what you asked for. So in other words, you might be hungry, right? And so you think, oh, I wish I had the money to go get something to eat. And then all of a sudden your roommate comes home with like some extra food or something like that, right? And it wasn't exactly what you were asking for. But then you stop and you notice, well, hold on a minute, it is what I was asking for. What I wanted was something to eat, you know? And if you can learn to follow that sort of logic chain or thought process, you can be way more in tune with your intuition and draw from your life experiences and know the trends and cycles and how people operate. And by doing that and utilizing your strength, by helping the lions will help you. You know what I mean? By giving people a cautious benefit of the doubt and using as almost just a mental exercise, believing that everyone has some sort of good intentions. Even if the good intentions don't extend to you as a stranger, it may be to their kids. You know what I mean? Like the most evil guy in the world may treat his son like a king, you know, and that would be what's caused his imbalance, because he has separated his son from the rest of the world. But somebody who's more balanced will understand that his son is part of the rest of the world. So if he's not teaching that son to be a good, responsible person, and he's only teaching them to look out for themselves, he's actually harming himself and his son in the process, because they are breeding a worse world. You see what I'm saying? So that's a little bit of a convoluted message, but I hope you were able to stick with that. The foundation of the situation is the Two of Swords. This is about sort of being in a prepared stance, about being ready to take attack from any direction. It's it's a skilled position, but it's a skill in such a way that you're now out of the adept, the learning stage, and you're learning mastery. And in order for you to learn mastery, to truly understand the art, you're having to figure out how to not hesitate, right? So how to not be so sure that one possible danger situation is occurring that you get stuck on that idea, right? So giving people a reason to doubt every now and then is a good thing. It will it'll keep them on their toes. It'll keep them constantly thinking or adding in self-reflection steps so that they don't get too far ahead of themselves. They don't, you know, go off half-cocked, that kind of thing. But there's a balance of it. If you do it all the time, the person is just brought down by you. All you do is just like cram them down. Now, eventually they'll figure out how to get back up, eventually. But it's a much more pleasant and positive experience if there is a good balance. If you know, you're going to break someone down, you need to build them up too. If you're going to, you know, kind of crash someone's dreams, then you need to also show them how that enables some of their other dreams. You know what I mean? Show them that wrongs and rights sort of go hand in hand, that type of thing. And you've learned that in your life, even if you don't necessarily always remember it, but you've learned that the goods come with the bads, and that it's always just how it looks. You don't have to be sad or mad or about those things. You can choose to see them a different way. You can choose to see them in a more positive light. Sometimes you just forget that you can choose, and so if you don't remember that you can, effectively you can't. But it's about reminding yourself that you can feel however you want to feel in any situation. It doesn't require a specific set of circumstances. What I have for your crowning thoughts, your higher consciousness, is the Four of Coins. And you can see this figure is sort of like coddling a bit overprotective of the possessions that she has achieved. And it's come from just uh, forgetting that the game is a game, right? And becoming more wrapped up in the game than in what we are playing the game for, right? So this is, you've achieved some degree of financial success, or not even financial success, but material comfort. The way that the world is in some way okay for you, but you're almost too concerned with losing what you have, so that you're not capable of really enjoying it. You're just constantly nervous about losing it. And so a little bit of balance is required for you, reflection, to understand that while your concerns have merit and they're important and they are a way of expressing love, they also can keep you boxed in, and they can keep your loved ones boxed in too, because life without danger, it's pretty boring. You know what I mean? We all want to, kids especially, go out and they expose themselves to just like the most terrible things, and the parents just get mortified. I can't believe he would want to expose himself to that. Oh, they get the heebie-jeebies, and it's okay. It's part of the growing up process. The things that were shocking when you were young are now going to be different than when the next generation was young, or vice versa. You know what I mean? We all have different things. As society progresses, there are new taboos, and everybody's going to have to break some taboos just as a fact of being young. So this is a time when the best advice is, if you want less criminals, make less laws. There's that's essentially what it is, and people will want to do it less because there's a certain amount of rebellious spirit that is healthy, and people are just channeling that. So if you can learn to give them a little bit of a wide berth and expect that they're going to do it, it's more healthy and productive as a growing environment for everybody, and everybody's not getting quite so upset that not everybody can figure out how to play nice from a very young age. The advice for the current situation is the world, full God realization. In this context, it's saying to tap in, to look at the world through God's eyes a little bit. Now, even if you don't believe in Him, think about how if you were God and you just essentially ruled everything, people would hate you. They would resent you to no end. They would, I want to do it myself. I can't believe you've kept me a prisoner and all this. So you've got to find a way to teach and influence people without making it seem like you're controlling them. You've got to understand, first of all, that everybody has to learn their own lessons in life. That even though the lesson, or the way that your son or your friend or somebody is learning a lesson looks a lot scarier than the way that you learned it, trying to prevent them from learning the lesson or going through that situation is only going to make it worse the next time around. So it's best to try to use your experience, draw on the things that your view of the world, and find a way to show them the proper way to navigate through their situation. You know what I mean? So don't tell your kid not to do drugs if you found yourself doing drugs when you were a kid, right? You may understand now as an adult that it's not good to do it, but you have to find a way to get them to understand that, not to just take your word for it, not to just believe you. You know what I mean? So there's got to be a controlled way. This is sort of the energy of drugs are a touchy subject, so maybe don't tell your kids to go do drugs because you watched one of my tarot videos. But like cigarettes, some people's fathers, whenever they get caught smoking cigarettes, the father will sit them down and make them smoke a whole pack. Oh, mothers would get mortified. They said, no, not my baby, not a whole pack of cigarettes. But what if he gets lung cancer and all this stuff? Get very, very nervous. But the father knows that if he has a really bad experience with this, right there with him there to help, then he's probably not going to do it. He's probably going to learn a valuable lesson through that experience. So that's what you have to keep in mind in this situation. Don't shelter too much. know that people are going to sometimes walk off of a cliff, and just sort of look ahead and make sure that cliff isn't too steep so that they're going to hurt themselves, but they may need to bust their ass to learn something from the situation. So keep that in mind. Your current environment is the star, and this is, I think, a really appropriate one for this reading, because what's happening in the sun in one jug there represents the intellect. This is in your past, and the moon represents the sort of intuition, your gut feeling. This is the thing that has made you sort of scared. This has made you give all this. It's made you try to help people change or alter their life to avoid scary visions for the future that you have for them. But you're pouring both of those out. The intellect, that's over. The intuition, that's over a little bit to a certain extent too. And you're now looking up to the stars. You're now looking up to a grander, bigger picture, a greater scale of things. And again, that greater scale comes from this full God realization, knowing that everything has a purpose, that everything works in the end for your benefit. If it doesn't kill you, right? If you make it through, you've become wiser because of it. So if you envision the very end extreme of not learning a lesson, and you say, oh, they're going to go there, then you're going to prevent them from learning the lesson in a safer environment, because it just builds up. It gets more intense every time you fail to learn a lesson. It comes back to you in a new way that's more intense. So help people guide through their situation before it gets to that point, and sometimes you can avoid a lot of heartache, a lot of really super intense emotions. But you can't increase your ability to know pleasure without increasing your ability to know pain. So know that that's part of the process too, that we want to feel pain in a controlled way, so that we can know better pleasure. You know what I mean? So it's something that instinctively drives us, and you have to figure that out before you can really give a person good advice on how to continue, because otherwise they're just not going to listen. The Fears card is in the King of Cups. So the King of Cups is somebody who is in total control of his emotions. They do not control him, he controls them. Okay, so this is to say that maybe a younger, more immature person would get really angry if somebody offended them. They would just fly off the handle. But because they're older and they understand, the anger doesn't feel like it completely takes you over. It's something that you feel. And then after you feel it, you have a sort of choice as to how to act based on it. And you can use that as sort of a way of following your intuition, because what happens is your emotions don't simply become something that use you. You use your emotions to express to somebody something about their behavior or something like that. So in other words, maybe at one time you were sitting in class and somebody was tapping on the desk, tap, 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 tap. And you got so enraged that you couldn't control yourself anymore. So you were like, oh my God, please stop doing that, cease. But you can come to a point to where, even though that was impulsive and it was because it sort of controlled you, you can come to a point where you can feel those type of emotions and you can recognize, I feel that because that person needs to learn a lesson. That person needs to learn that he can control his emotions, that he doesn't have to sit there and tap, tap, tap. So if you can flip that page a little bit and get to the point to where you see that your emotions are teaching you the gifts that you need to give to other people, the knowledge that you need to give to other people, that type of thing, you can become more effective. You don't have to simply, if you're afraid that your children are going to be hurt or something like that, you don't have to expend all of your mental energy into trying to prevent that from happening. If you instead expend some of your energy into building up their confidence so that they do sort of stick their neck out a little bit and fall down, they will become more careful. You see what I'm saying? But if you always shelter them, then they're going to make really rash, stupid decisions that are dangerous for them. So you have to find this balance. You have to find this new way of looking at things, looking at the world, where it's not all bad, that everything has a benefit, you know? The current or overall message is the Ace of Swords. And this is your third ace. This represents a new idea, or a new thought, or possibly new way of thinking. And this is what you're being asked to sort of adopt, is this new way of thinking where it's not based on the intellect anymore, or like what you can sense with your five senses, you know, and you've even progressed past the point of feeling an emotion, and you're now in a point to where you're back sort of at the beginning of the cycle where you're having to teach using the lessons that you went through. And doing that shows you these patterns, these overall cycles and rhythms that are just natural in society and in families and in personalities. And when you learn those cycles, you are able to sort of take a step back and not be affected so much, take everything so seriously. And when that happens, you can then effectively become a teacher, you know? So that's the whole new thought process that you're being asked to integrate. It's a great reading. I think fantastic advice for anybody. Wasn't quite as older generation as I thought it would be, so I hope that even the younger viewers got a lot out of that. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know, and I will try to get to them as soon as I can, and I will see you guys next month.